What happens when the geopolitical battleground shifts fundamentally, moving away from, bullets and bombs toward invisible beams of light and electromagnetic coercion?
Well, it means we're dealing with a new, and I mean immediate, and extremely dangerous threat matrix. The unseen war it's really all about electronic warfare and directed energy. That's the decisive domain now.
And that's the core of this deep dive. We're looking at the new front lines of modern military competition.
Specifically, things like long-range precision strike, electronic warfare, and what they call directed energy, or DE, weapons.
We're drawing on some serious research here from RUSI and some very current news reports. And to show you just how real this is, we have to start with an incident that happened, just this week?
That's right. We're talking about the action reported just days ago on November 19th, 2025. It involved the Russian spy ship, the Yantar.
Now, this isn't just any ship, right?
No, not at all. It's operated by GUGI, Russia's main directorate for deep-sea research. Its whole job is to monitor and potentially sabotage critical undersea internet cables. And it took, let's call it overtly aggressive action off the coast of Scotland.
This wasn't just quiet spying. This was active coercion. The Yantar actually directed what sources are calling Dazzler system lasers at UK Royal Air Force pilots who were monitoring it.
Just think about that for a second.
Yeah. I mean, a strategic asset designed to mess with our entire internet and communication infrastructure used a directed energy weapon to interfere with a military plane.
In peacetime.
Yeah.
It's a huge escalation. It falls just short of, a kinetic conflict, but it is deeply, deeply destabilizing, and it really highlights the vulnerability of our critical national infrastructure, or CNI.
All those undersea cables.
They carry something like 97% of all global communications, so
Right.
putting that at risk is a direct strategic threat.
So what was the UK's response?
It was robust, and I'd say necessary. They deployed the Royal Navy frigate HMS Somerset. They changed the rules of engagement for closer monitoring, and they issued a very direct public warning that, quote, military options were on the table if that vessel moved further south.
Okay, so that really sets the stage. The threat is immediate. What's the strategic mission here? What are we trying to figure out in this deep dive?
The mission is really to analyze how the West can use its own technological and economic advantages to impose just devastating, disproportionate costs on Russia.
So it's not just about hitting targets anymore.
No, not at all. Success now is defined by how you force your adversary to drain their defense budget. You make them defend against threats that we can field cheaply, quickly, and in massive numbers. It's cost imposition as strategic leverage.
Okay, so let's unpack that. This competitive environment. The core idea, as you said, is basically financial warfare, making the other side bleed cash.
That is the foundation of modern strategy, yes. And directed energy, DE, and electronic warfare, EW, are revolutionary because they completely shatter the old, what we call the cost exchange ratio.
Right. So in the old days, a missile comes in, you have to fire a missile back to stop it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your interceptor missile, which is this complex piece of tech, might cost anywhere from $500,000 to several $1,000,000.
And what if the enemy sends a swarm of cheap drones? The kind that only cost $10,000 a piece. We're literally bankrupting ourselves trying to shoot them down, right?
You've got it. You lose that cost exchange fight immediately. But this is where the new technology completely flips the script.
With the lasers.
High-energy lasers, HELs, and high-powered microwave systems. They offer dramatically lower costs per shot. I mean, once you've paid for the system itself, the cost to fire it is basically just the electricity.
Which could be less than a car wash.
And your magazine is effectively unlimited as long as you have power. So you have deeper magazines, lower costs. It's the perfect defense against those mass, cheap drone swarms. It lets us win the economic battle.
And we don't have to just imagine this. We're seeing it play out right now in the electronic warfare domain in Ukraine.
We are. The war in Ukraine has just validated the overwhelming power of the electromagnetic spectrum, the EMS. Our sources confirm that Russian EW systems are reportedly responsible for a stunning 75% of all Ukrainian drone losses.
75%. That's not missiles, it's jamming.
It's jamming and spoofing that are just neutering Ukraine's primary asymmetric tool. That one statistic shows how fragile our reliance on networked digital systems, GPS, communications really is.
So we need to be fielding these cheaper defenses.
Urgently. And the U.S. is moving on it. You have the Army's DMHAORAD system, designed specifically for counter-drone defense. The Air Force has its THAOR demonstrator to defend air bases. We are actively moving this tech from the lab to the field to secure that cost advantage.
Okay, now let's shift to what I find is the most compelling strategic insight in this material. Russia has always relied on its huge geography, its strategic depth. But that advantage is, well, it's disappearing.
This is a fundamental geopolitical shift,
Mm.
and it's causing deep anxiety in Moscow. Russia has lost its strategic depth because of, shifting borders.
Hmm.
The most obvious example is Finland joining NATO.
So missiles that used to be only tactical can now hit really important stuff.
Exactly. They can now impact what we'd call strategically relevant Russian targets.
Hmm.
Major naval bases, nuclear sites like Severomorsk. They are now within reach of relatively short-range Allied weapons.
And their deep rear areas are suddenly vulnerable. That must feed right into that historical Russian paranoia about a surprise decapitation strike.
It absolutely does. If you read Russian military doctrine, there is a systemic, ingrained fear of strategic paralysis.
Yeah.
A fear of strikes on their command and control nodes, their C2. They are psychologically primed to defend those deep areas at all costs.
And that fear is a weakness we can exploit.
A major strategic weakness. And the way we exploit it is by forcing them to spend money protecting what they fear losing the most.
Right.
That structural fear forces Russia to pour outsized resources into their integrated air and missile defense, IAMD, just to protect their C2 structures deep in their own territory.
So that huge, inefficient spending directly competes with, say, beating up their army. We trap them in a dilemma.
That's the trap. It's driven by their own geography and their own doctrine.
But here's the irony. A lot of those high-end systems they rely on, like the S-400, they're not even that great against modern ballistic threats, are they?
That's the painful truth for them. The Russian IADs, the S-400 included, perform significantly worse against ballistic targets compared to slower things like cruise missiles or planes.
Why is that?
Speed. Ballistic missiles travel much faster, often at steeper angles,
Hmm.
and they're harder for radar to see. That just kills the reaction time for the defense network.
So they're forced to spend a fortune on layered defenses that are statistically weak against the biggest threat. It's massively inefficient.
And that is the core strategic victory for us. The asymmetric advantage for NATO is to use our relatively short-range weapons, we're talking up to 500 kilometers, and our air superiority to force Russia into that inefficient spending.
Every billion they waste on defense in the rear.
Is $1 billion they can't spend on their offense or expanding their conventional forces?
This sounds like a solid strategy, but now we have to turn the mirror on ourselves. As we plan to exploit their vulnerabilities, what are our own immediate defense challenges? Where are we weak?
Well, from a conservative standpoint, the priority must always be strong, sovereign defense capabilities. And frankly, we have some glaring gaps. NATO's chief challenge is one of sheer capacity. We just don't have enough ground-based air defense, GBAD.
And not enough missiles to put in them.
A chronic shortage of interceptor stockpiles. We have to protect two huge categories of targets at the same time: critical military bases and all our civilian CNI. Power plants, airports, command centers. Our defenses will be stretched beyond their breaking point.
And it gets worse when you look specifically at ballistic missile defense, right?
Absolutely. There is a huge capability gap in the number of what we call hit-to-kill ballistic missile defense interceptors in Europe.
What's the difference?
Well, much of what Europe produces are older systems like the PAC-2 GM. It uses an explosive warhead. It basically explodes near the target. That's not good enough against modern maneuverable missiles. You need the advanced hit-to-kill interceptors that physically slam into the target to guarantee a kill. We're short on those.
Okay, let's bring it back to the invisible war. Our eyes in the sky, our ISR advantage. How fragile is that?
It's real, but it is extremely fragile. Our current space infrastructure is, well, it's federated. It's a collection of individual national systems, not a truly integrated, resilient network.
Which makes it a very tempting target for Russia.
A perfect economy of force target. Why spend billions trying to destroy ground assets when you can just blind the eyes watching you from above?
And Russia is actively developing weapons to do just that, with directed energy.
Correct. The Russian Peresvet laser system is specifically designed to dazzle reconnaissance satellites.
Dazzle, so not destroy.
Right. It's temporary functional blindness. It floods the satellite's sensors with light so it can't see anything. This creates a tactical blackout, allowing Russian forces to move or get ready without us seeing them. It's coercion without creating an act of war.
So that Yantar dazzling a plane off Scotland, that's basically a preview of what they plan to do to our most valuable assets in space.
It's a critical data point. The intent is there. And finally, none of this tech matters. Not the DE, not the EW if we don't have the people to run it.
The human capital gap.
Exactly. The UK, for example, openly recognizes a persistent STEM skills shortage in its defense sector. We are struggling to find and keep the engineers, the physicists, the programmers we need. This isn't just a technology problem, it's an industrial and educational one.
So to summarize what we've covered, global competition is escalating fast. It's anchored by this immediate, non-kinetic threat to our infrastructure, which that Yantar incident made crystal clear. And the rise of EW and DE means our strategy has to be two-pronged. First, maximize Russia's costs.
Make them burn cash on inefficient defenses in their rear. And second, we have to rapidly build our own robust, efficient, and sovereign defenses. Shore up our gaps in interceptors, BMD, and space.
And there's a payoff to forcing them on the defensive.
There is. If we do it right, if we successfully impose those costs and force them to obsess over defending their rear areas, they are then compelled to thin out their defenses near the front line.
Which, paradoxically, makes things easier for our conventional forces.
Yes, it simplifies the task for our air power. It tunes their greatest strength, their geographic depth and doctrine, into their most exploitable weakness.
So what does all this mean for you listening at home? The technology of war is changing. It's making non-lethal attacks like the laser dazzling from that Russian spy ship a viable tool for strategic disruption, even in peacetime. So given that directed energy was just used to coerce a military plane, and knowing how vulnerable our internet infrastructure is, how prepared is our political system to handle an act of aggression that falls short of war, but could bring our lights and our internet down instantly? That is the immediate strategic challenge of this new invisible era.